It has been over 50 years, half a century, since humanity last ventured beyond the safety of low Earth orbit. But right now, at the Kennedy Space Center, the wait is finally over. In early 2026, the massive doors of the vehicle assembly building parted, and a Titan emerged. This is Artemis II. It is 212 feet of aluminum, composite, and raw explosive power. And sitting right on top, the Orion spacecraft, named Integrity. This isn't just another test flight. In less than a month, 4 human beings are going to strap into that capsule. They aren't just going to the International Space Station. They're going to the moon. Today, we are breaking down everything you need to know about the upcoming launch. We're talking about the River Rock Road that saves the rocket from destruction, the laser internet system that will beam 4K video from deep space, and the biological avatars flying alongside the crew. Plus, we're looking ahead to 2027 and the Artemis III landing, where things get even crazier. Buckle up. We are going back. The rollout, moving a skyscraper. First, we have to talk about what happened just days ago, the rollout. Moving a rocket this big isn't just driving it down the street. It is a logistical nightmare and an engineering masterpiece. The vehicle that carries the SLS is called Crawler Transporter 2. It's a beast left over from the Apollo era, but heavily upgraded. It carries the 5,000-ton rocket at a top speed of, wait for it, 0.8 miles per hour. Here is the breathtaking part. The rocket is incredibly top-heavy. If it tilts even a fraction of a degree, the structural stress could buckle the core stage. As the crawler climbs the incline to pad 39B, it uses a laser-guided hydraulic suspension system called GEL. It actively jacks up the rear of the platform to keep the rocket perfectly vertical, fighting gravity with 16 massive hydraulic jacks. And the road it drives on, it's not concrete. Concrete would shatter under the weight. The crawlerway is paved with specific river rocks from Alabama. Why? Because they are round and hard. As the crawler's tracks roll over them, the rocks rotate against each other. It acts as a granular fluid bearing. Basically, the road flows like a liquid under the pressure to distribute the weight and absorb vibration. If they used standard gravel, the rocks would lock together and crush under the immense load, transmitting catastrophic vibrations straight up into the Orion flight computers. NASA literally engineered the ground to save the rocket. The machine and the mission profile. Once it's at the pad, the countdown begins.
7, 6, 5, 4-stage engine start. 3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
When this thing lights up in February, the 4 RS-25 engines and twin solid rocket boosters will generate 8.8 million pounds of thrust. That is enough energy to tear the sky open. But the mission profile for Artemis II is where the science gets fascinating. They aren't just shooting straight for the moon. After reaching orbit, they spend 24 hours orbiting Earth in a high elliptical orbit. Why? It's a shakedown cruise. They need to test the life support and, crucially, the piloting. pilot Victor Glover will actually take manual control of Orion. He's going to fly the spacecraft to rendezvous with the spent upper stage engine, using it as target practice for docking. This proves they can handle the spacecraft manually if the computers fail in deep space. Once that's clear, they fire the engine and head for the moon. They are taking a free return trajectory. It's a brilliant safety hack. Physics does the driving. The gravity of the moon grabs the spacecraft, slings it around the far side, and shoots it naturally back toward Earth. The dark side and the silence. But let's talk about the specific moment that everyone is waiting for, the flyby. This isn't like the Apollo landings, where they orbited close to the surface, just 60 miles up. Artemis II is taking a wider path, and that changes everything about the view. The crew will approach the lunar surface, getting within about 6,400 miles. From this altitude, they won't just see the horizon. They will see the moon as a giant, suspended marble. As they swing around the back, they will see the far side, often called the dark side. It looks totally different from the face we see from Earth. There are no dark seas or Maria here. It is a battered, rugged wasteland of ancient craters, thickened crust, and silence. And I mean literal silence. As Orion slips behind the moon, the rocky mass will physically block all radio signals to Earth for approximately 45 minutes. Mission Control in Houston will have zero contact with the crew. No telemetry, no voice, just static. In that moment, those 4 astronauts will be the loneliest humans who have ever lived. They will be further from home than anyone in history, staring down at an alien world completely cut off from the rest of humanity. But then comes the payoff. As they sling around the edge, they will witness Earth rise. They will see our entire planet, every war, every city, every ocean, rising over the lunar horizon. It's a view that changed our species in 1968, and we are about to see it again in high definition.
Look at that picture over there. Here's the Earth coming up. Wow, that's pretty. Hey, don't take that. It's not scheduled. You got a color film, Jim?
The astronauts and the avatars. So, who is experiencing this isolation? The Artemis generation crew. We have Commander Reed Wiseman, a former Navy test pilot. We have pilot Victor Glover. He will become the first person of color to leave low Earth orbit. We have Jeremy Hansen, a Canadian fighter pilot, proving this is an international effort. And then there's Christina Cook. She already holds the record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman, 328 days. She's an engineer who has wintered in Antarctica. She is built for extreme environments. She will be the first woman to travel to the moon. But here's a fact that sounds like pure sci-fi. They are bringing avatars.
This is cutting edge. This is going to revolutionize medicine, not just on Earth, but for us in space.
Deep space radiation is an invisible killer. To study it, NASA is flying the Avatar experiment. These are microchips containing living human cells grown from the blood of the astronauts themselves. Christina Cook's biological double will be on a chip right next to her, allowing scientists to see exactly how her specific genes react to deep space radiation. Lasers in space. Another mind-blowing tech upgrade? Communication. During Apollo, we had grainy black and white TV. For Artemis, we have the O2O laser system. Instead of radio waves, Orion uses infrared lasers to transmit data. This allows for a bandwidth of 260 megabits per second. That's better than the Wi-Fi in most of your houses. It means we will get 4K Ultra HD video streamed live from the moon. We aren't just going to hear one small step. We're going to see the dust kick up in high definition. The future, Artemis III and the South Pole. Artemis II is just the Pathfinder. The real prize comes next. Artemis III, targeted for 2027. This mission aims to put boots on the ground, but not where Apollo went. Apollo went to the equator, the flat, safe, sunny parts. Artemis is going to the lunar South Pole. It is a land of extreme contrasts. Deep craters there haven't seen sunlight for billions of years. They are some of the coldest places in the solar system. Why go there? Ice. Ancient water ice trapped in those shadows. That ice is the key to rocket fuel, oxygen, and drinking water for a permanent base. To get there, NASA is using SpaceX's Starship as the lander. It's a 50-meter tall skyscraper, landing on the moon. If they pull it off, we will be sampling rocks from the South Pole Aitken Basin, the oldest impact crater on the moon. Unlocking secrets of the early solar system. Conclusion. The rocket is at the pad. The wet dress rehearsal is scheduled for February 2nd. The crew is ready. Humanity is about to take the next great leap. If you want to stay updated on every step of this mission, make sure you subscribe. We are witnessing history. Thanks for watching, and Ad Astra.